and I'd like to now introduce Glen Moriarty. He's the founder and CEO of 7 Cups, and Glen will be talking to us about a technological approach to better mental health. So welcome, Glen.
Thank you so much. It's really an honor to be here. The AmeriCares community is pretty incredible, phenomenal team, phenomenal board members, so thank you all. So yes, I'm here to represent the kind of the technology arm of this, how we can leverage technology to further scale compassion and care. And part of that, rather than kind of getting into the details, I figured I'd tell some of the 7 Cups story and highlight some components of social technology, old wisdom, this idea of compassion and problem solving and how that can be infused through technology to provide more access and care. So the theme of the talk is the problem is the path. The problem is the path. So for context, 7 Cups is a free emotional support service. We launched in 2013. We've helped about 40 million people. We have 340,000 trained volunteer listeners, people that listen. They provide what we call active listening, which is empathy, highlighting emotion words, paraphrasing, summarizing. So 340,000 listeners, 189 countries, providing support in 140 languages. So how it started was I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm also a psychologist, and many mental health professionals are wounded healers, right? Meaning that we've kind of gone through our own challenges. I was studying behavior that is offline that hadn't yet moved online. So learning, many of you remember, learning, totally offline. Then it moved online. Dating, totally offline, right? We were talking about this last night. Then it moved online. So I'm talking to my wife about a problem. She's a therapist. She's listening to me. And I feel better. And it occurs to me, the behavior that is offline, that hasn't yet moved online, is the need to talk to somebody, the need to have somebody really listen to you. And you can think about this in your own life, right? If something bad were to happen on the way home today, the first thing you'd want to do is probably call somebody, right? And say, hey, this thing happened. Because it's a universal human impulse, right? No matter who we are, no matter what language we speak, no matter where we live, we want to talk to somebody because it helps us feel better. So I went to Y Combinator, which is a startup accelerator in California. Paul Buchheit, the guy who created Gmail, was our partner. And I'm excited, right? I move across the country. I've been working on the website, the design, the picture, the copy, the words, to try to tell the service. And I meet with him for the first time, and I hurriedly open up my computer, and I say, and he goes, hey, did you launch this yet? I dodge the question, right? It's uncomfortable. I'm like I just moved across the country. I'm excited to be here. Well, can I just share? Did you launch it yet? No. Launch it and come back next week. Okay. So I leave. I go back to my apartment. It's voice-based, right? So I get all my family and friends, everybody I know. I say, hey, hop on, try out the service. And the way it works is that you anonymously call in. You punch in a number that's an anonymous number. We ring all of our listeners, people that have been trained to listen, and the first person to pick up, we connect. Now, Paul knows something that I don't know. Planning, thinking, making a website, these are ways of avoiding the actual problem, right? Hey, you learn by doing, you learn by getting real data and figuring it out. What if it doesn't work? What if I just moved across the country and this is a disaster, right? All these kind of questions. So guess what happens? It doesn't work. Nobody uses the phone to talk on the phone, right? This is 2013. It's not obvious yet that the phone is no longer the phone. I'm a psychologist. We meet face to face with people. It turns out voice is too intimate for people seeking help initially. How many of you are Amazon Prime members? How many of you buy more stuff from Amazon than you want? Amazon pioneered something called the one-click buy, right? Think about the brilliance of this, one-click buy, because they understand something on the internet that's called an internet funnel. If you have 1,000 people and something takes 10 steps to do, you're going to lose 100 people at each step. So you start with 1,000, you end with only 100 doing it. One-click buy, 1,000, right? Smart. Now think about our traditional behavioral health system, mental health system, healthcare system. Think about that funnel. It's about 27 steps, and those steps are very threatening, right? So it's not just a couple of clicks. It's go online, try to find a therapist, call, make an appointment, drive there, sit in the waiting room, fill out some really personal paperwork, meet with a stranger for a first time, tell your story. So think about an internet funnel, right? Life funnel. In the US, where we have more resources, still half the people don't get help, right? So what we quickly figured out, what Paul forced us to quickly do, is to learn how do you best help people. So again, the problem is the path. What we learned is that the way you help people is you have to make it super simple. 3 steps or less, and you have to make the steps not threatening. So face-to-face therapy, threatening. Video conferencing, threatening. Voice, less threatening, but still intimate and a little threatening. You know what works? You know what people want? Anonymous messaging. That's how you open the door to really help people. But we had to discover that by, unfortunately being forced, but still having the courage to steer into the problem and figure it out. Okay, problem is the path. Another problem, startup is like a collection of problems that you solve, right? It's basically like life. Like problem comes at you, you take a soda bottle down, the next one slides down, take the next one down. That's really what a startup is, and unfortunately, it's a lot of what life is like too. But there's nuggets in those problems, right? When you solve the problems, you unlock key insights. It's like a video game, right? So you go through one level, and you got to beat the boss, and then you get skills to beat the boss. You need those skills for the next level, and that's how life is, right? Whether it be a company, whether it be a nonprofit, whether it be a startup, you're always solving problems. So we launched 7 Cups. There's not a lot of help going around, so everybody points to 7 Cups. So that means everybody from all over the world that's struggling and going online, they're coming to our site. We're overwhelmed. I'm the first listener. I'm doing 12 hours a day, trying to learn, trying to figure it out. My wife, same thing. I'm getting students as much as I can. Hey, can you help out? Hey, you want to do a practica? Hey, you want to figure this out? Get online. We're recruiting these students. It's not working. It's just not working at all. This guy, this really, really smart guy, Robin Steptoe from NAMI, says, hey, Glenn, why don't you put a little banner at the top of the chat that says one of the best ways to help yourself is to help somebody else. From that day forward, we started getting some percentage of people seeking help to sign up to be a listener to give back. And that finally got us in front of the demand. The problem is the path. Third quick anecdote. We figured this out. We're excited. It's working. We wanted to learn how to scale compassion. We're proud of ourselves. Now we're running out of money, right? We raised $2 million in seed money. Yay! We're doing it. And then 500 grand left. And I'm the founder, and I'm carrying this burden. I got to figure this out. I got to figure out how to keep the lights on this thing. Like we just built this beautiful thing. It's working. The community loves it. I love it. We all love it. But we don't have the money. So I go around, and the myth back then with tech companies was if you build something big enough, you can find a way to monetize it. You can find a way to generate revenue. So I figured, okay, 1 in 10 people will give me a quarter. Some people will give me $1, right? So I'm with the equivalent of my hat. Hey, how's it going? Do you like the service? You want to give us a quarter? And we're primarily focusing on people with no financial resources, right? This is really where the demand is, where the greatest need is. So, nobody really wanted to give us enough money. So we couldn't do it that way. And on top of that, the community, a few people in the community, some kind of louder folks, are believing that we're selling everybody's data and we actually have plenty of money. And of course we don't. Many on the team are not even taking a salary, and everybody's taking way below market salaries. And they just keep hitting and hitting and hitting, right? And this is a problem, right? This is another major problem. So we finally, again, my wife comes to the rescue, does some therapy, right? Helps me out. I finally realized, hey, I just got to be transparent about this. So I write a community post. I say, look, this is the state of the team. It's a major struggle. We got 3 options. 1, we just wind this thing down. We learned a lot, right? And we'll be able to share what we learned with other organizations. 2, we dial back the team to a really small team and we keep the lights on. Or 3, we figure this out and we flourish. I'm obviously rooting for 3, right? I'll take 2. I really don't want to do 1. That point forward, the community gets aligned. They're like, all right, we're all in this together. We got to figure it out. And at that point, it really was like kind of the clouds parted, the sun came through. And we figured out a model, pioneer in the developing world, called task sharing, where there's not enough clinicians to go around, so you train volunteers, and the volunteers do the vast majority of the work. And then when somebody really needs help, you refer them up to an expert. So we did pioneered digital task sharing, where 99.5% of what we do is free, but 0.5% of people sign up for therapy, and the therapist bill, and we collect a percentage of that, and that's what allowed us to keep the lights on. That's what allowed us to figure out, that's what got us profitable. I was so relieved and so happy. So that's how this is with problem solving, right? You never love problem solving. It's always painful, right? There's a statement, I think Ray Dalio says that pain plus reflection equals progress, right? Just pain plus reflection equals progress. We don't grow when things are great. We don't grow when we're going through a good time. We grow when we have to face challenges, and it's uncomfortable going through them. And repeatedly today you hear resiliency, the need to not be siloed, the need for us to collaborate, the need for us to work together. And I think those are all critical and key points to how we begin to figure out and solve these challenges together. Is we have to champion one another, right? We have to celebrate, like Cisco has so greatly illustrated, because these challenges are extremely complex. And we're going to figure them out by working together. So when we see a company fail, when we see a person fail, when we see somebody struggle, I think we have to model reaching out to them and saying, hey, good job. You tried. It wasn't successful, but you taught us something. You collectively helped us learn something that we wouldn't have otherwise learned. And we champion them, and we lift them up, and we bring them forward. So I think sometimes Paul was telling me about, I think it was Bob McCauley, who seemed to be a doer, somebody who was, ready to jump in there and figure it out. I think for a lot of this stuff, we can plan and prepare. But I think for a lot of this, we're going to have to do. We're going to have to innovate. We're going to have to build, measure, learn, build, measure, learn. Keep at it and innovate our way through these challenges. I saw a t-shirt once, had a picture of the Earth on the back, and on the top it said crew member. We're all crew members here, right? So let's figure it out. We don't need a huge plan. We don't need we do need strategy. We need all these elements. But what we really need to do is we need to take that next biggest problem that's in front of us, be courageous, struggle, get challenged, get tired, get exhausted, and try to figure it out and support each other in that process. And as we do that, we'll solve that problem, and then we'll get the next one. In closing, the problem is the path. Thank you.